A cruel sun hung over the red canyons of New Mexico when Jake Holloway, a weary cowboy, spotted a shimmer of color among the rocks. He'd been tracking stray cattle for 2 days, dust crusting his throat, when he noticed a blood trail along the ravine. As he followed it, he found her. A young woman collapsed near a boulder, her arm gashed and her moccasins torn. Her skin was bronze, her features delicate but strong, and beside her lay a broken bow. For a long moment he thought she was dead. Then she groaned softly, alive but barely. He crouched beside her, untying his water canteen. The girl's lips trembled as he poured water onto her cracked mouth. "Easy now," he murmured. Her eyes fluttered open, dark and fierce like a trapped hawk's. She tried to move away, fear flashing across her face. Jake raised his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. "You're safe," he said, though he wasn't sure himself. She whispered something in Apache, a language he only half understood, before her head fell back into unconsciousness. Jake knew bringing her to camp was a risk. The Apaches and settlers were at uneasy peace, and any misunderstanding could turn deadly, but leaving her there would mean her death. He lifted her carefully into his arms and carried her to his horse, feeling her light weight and the faint tremor of breath against his chest. Dust rose behind him as he rode through the canyon toward his small cabin by the creek. The wind howled through the rocks, whispering warnings of trouble ahead. By nightfall, he had laid her on his bedroll inside the cabin. He cleaned her wound with whiskey, wrapped it with torn cloth, and sat watching as the fire cast soft light across her face. She was young, maybe 20. Her necklace, carved bone and turquoise, looked like something of great meaning. When she stirred, her eyes darted toward the knife at his belt, and her body tensed. "I ain't here to hurt you," he said gently. "Name's Jake." She said nothing, just stared, distrust clear in every breath. Over the next days, she began to heal. She rarely spoke, and when she did, her words came in broken English. "Why you help?" she asked once, suspicion shadowing her tone. Jake shrugged. "Didn't sit right leaving someone to die out there." She looked away, whispering something about spirits guiding mercy. He noticed the quiet strength in her eyes, and how she winced each time thunder echoed through the canyons, as if haunted by something unseen. One evening, as Jake was repairing a saddle, he noticed her staring at the horizon. "You waiting for someone?" he asked. Her gaze dropped. "They think I'm dead," she said softly. "Who's they?" Jake pressed gently. After a long silence, she whispered, "My father. He is Nantan Losa, Apache chief." Jake froze, realization hitting him like a gunshot. He had rescued the daughter of one of the most feared leaders in the territory. If the tribe found her with him, they'd likely think he had taken her hostage. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. The fire flickered low, and he could hear her breathing, slow and steady. Part of him wanted to ride her back to her people and be done with it. But another part, the quieter one, couldn't bear the thought of losing her. The next morning, riders appeared on the horizon, 3 men in tattered coats, rifles slung low. Bounty hunters. They were looking for something. Or someone. Jake stepped outside, his hand resting on his gun. "Morning, stranger," one of them said. "We heard there's Apache folk hiding near these parts. You seen anything unusual?" Jake forced a casual grin. "Just coyotes and wind." The man's eyes scanned the cabin door, suspicion heavy in his gaze. Inside, the girl crouched silently, clutching the knife Jake had given her. The air felt like it could shatter. Finally, the riders moved on, dust swirling behind them like ghosts. Jake let out a slow breath. "They find you, it won't end well," he said after returning inside. She nodded. "I know." Days turned into weeks. Her strength returned, and so did her laughter. Rare, quiet, but enough to fill the lonely cabin with something Jake hadn't felt in years. They rode through the canyon together. She showed him where to find wild herbs and taught him words in Apache. He taught her how to aim a rifle and whistle for a horse. It was a fragile peace, one made of shared silence and growing trust. Sometimes when their eyes met across the firelight, neither looked away. But peace in the Wild West never lasted long. One morning, Jake woke to smoke rising from the southern ridge. Apache signal fires. His gut tightened. By dusk, riders appeared, Proud warriors painted for battle, their chief at the front. The woman stepped forward, trembling. "Father," she whispered. The old man dismounted, his face hard with grief and pride. "They said you were dead." She shook her head, tears falling freely. "This man saved me." The chief's gaze shifted to Jake, cold, appraising. "Why?" he asked in a deep, steady voice. Jake met his eyes. "Because she needed saving." For a moment silence hung between them, the canyon winds echoing like drums. Then the chief nodded once. "A man who saves life is not enemy." He turned to his daughter. "You may return with us." She looked at Jake, torn between duty and heart. "Come with me," she whispered. But Jake shook his head slowly. "Your world ain't mine." She reached out, touching his cheek gently, her eyes shining. "Then my spirit will walk beside yours." He smiled faintly, tipping his hat. "Reckon that's enough for me." As the Apache riders disappeared into the crimson horizon, Jake stood by the canyon's edge, watching until they were nothing but dust and memory. He turned back toward his lonely cabin, where her turquoise necklace still lay beside his bedroll, a quiet promise of something that had changed him forever. That night, as the fire crackled low, Jake looked to the stars and whispered, "Safe travels, little dove." Somewhere far away, under the same sky, an Apache woman looked west and smiled, her heart carrying the memory of a cowboy who had chosen kindness over fear and love over the rules of the world.